I'd like to present now one of CED's top honors. As everybody knows, CED stands for Leadership in the Nation's Interest. And we've always been a totally nonpartisan organization. We have about 180 members today. We don't know where everybody stands politically, but the ones we have figured out, we're exactly half D's, half R's, and we're all about trying to bridge the partisan divide and make real solutions. And so leadership in the nation's interest is what we stand for, and that's the name of this award today. The award was established in 2014 to honor business leaders who model our values. And the previous winners include Barbara Barrett, who's the Board of Trustees Chair of the Aerospace Corporation, David Cordani, the CEO of Cigna, Rich Kramer, the CEO of Goodyear, Greg Sherrill, CEO of Tenneco, Tom Nelson, CEO of National Gypsum, and Dan Daniello, one of the co-founders of the Carlyle Group. So this is, Laura, you're in brilliant company here, but none more important than our presentation today. Before I introduce Laura, I'd like to first of all recognize a very special friend who is here today, David Shapira. And David, if you could just give a wave, the chairman of Giant Eagle. Sorry. I had to do that to David. David's an old friend and an old competitor, and just to show you how special this is, he's also Laura's dad. And that's what makes this so special. David, thanks for making the trip up and being part of this recognition. Laura Karet, David's daughter, is the CEO of Giant Eagle, which includes 190 Get-Go convenience stores and market district. She has her BA in English from Amherst. She started her career at Procter & Gamble in brand management for many years, and I met her at the Sara Lee Bakery many years ago when we were both 12 years old working for Sara Lee. She joined Giant Eagle, family company, in 2000 as the VP of Marketing. She went on to become SVP of Marketing for new formats, and she created this whole new format, which in retail is a really big deal. It's really hard, especially to find successful ones. You can invent new formats, but a very successful one. And she was appointed CEO in January of 2012. They're a private organization, so I had to call the CIA, and I found out that they're over $10 billion in sales now, with over 500 locations that the CIA knows of. Their goal is to double revenue over the next decade, and there are 36,000 people in her company. This is one of the largest private and one of the largest family-owned companies in the country, and it was founded originally by 5 families, including Laura's. But a lot of change has happened in recent years. In 1997, Giant Eagle acquired a group of stores in the Cleveland area, Northeast Ohio area, which became the bane of my existence. And I want to tell you why. Because I was the CEO of the other chain in Cleveland, and it was the beginning of all my problems. Eventually, David and Laura and Giant Eagle is one of the best run, best merchandised, best grocery stores in the world. And I've seen stores all over the world. They were brilliant. And eventually we left Northeast Ohio with our tail between our legs, and we said, it's all yours. And they've done a brilliant job ever since. The awards that have been extended to Laura and Giant Eagle are just, they're very impressive, including the Progressive Grocers Retailer of the Year. Laura was recognized as one of the top women in grocery, EY Entrepreneur of the Year, Executive of the Year for Food Industry. But Laura's a very special person. She's very private, and this is the list of boards that she's on. And these are not big, flashy, this isn't GE, which she could be on any board in this country, in the world. She spends her time at the Allegheny Conference on Community Development, the United Way of Allegheny County, the County Parks Foundation, the Holy Family Institute, the Children's Hospital, the Country Day School, and we're very, very lucky to have her as a trustee of CED. Giant Eagle is committed to making a societal impact in 3 areas: hunger relief, health and wellness, and education and community enrichment. And the company gives away 5% of their profits every single year to their communities. Over 6 million pounds in food annually to hunger relief, and they're one of the largest donors to the Pittsburgh Central Blood Bank and American Red Cross. They have Apples for Students programs for teaching children about health and nutrition. They offer free prenatal vitamins. It's just an incredible, incredible company. And you just have to go no further than Giant Eagle's core values. Now, I've written core values. We've all had core values in our firms, but just listen. The very first core value of be kind. That says something, doesn't it? Be kind. We go out of our way to treat each other and our customers with care and respect. Second is think team. We love working together as a family. How many companies say that? We love working together as a family. Step up. We take our chance to make ourselves and our company great. Work smart. Root out waste. Work together. Push ourselves. And live well. We want to everyone to live a healthy, balanced life. And this is what Laura and David and Giant Eagle stands for. Laura's married, and more important to her than any business accolade that we or anybody else could ever provide to her, Laura's the mom of 3 brilliant children, and that's her focus in life. And I can attest that Laura is one of the most wonderful people that you'll ever meet. And so therefore it's my privilege on behalf of CED to award Laura the Leadership in the Nation's Interest Award.
Steve, thank you so much. I am so unbelievably honored to be here, but I have to tell you, as he was talking, I was thinking, well, I don't actually know anyone like that. Because the reality of my life is I run around after 3 kids, worrying about where's my homework, and you need to sign this paper, and I can't find it, and the dog just threw up, and in the middle of all that, there was a bank robbery, and, on and on and on. So, Steve, thank you, truly. I mean, those are unbelievably kind words, and I am extremely honored to be here. I'm really overwhelmed. Steve, what Steve didn't tell you is that when he called me to say we'd like to give you this award, I said no. In fact, I said no a bunch of times. And the reason I said no is I don't like awards. In our company, we try to do the right thing, and I'm going to expand on our company's history in a minute. We try to do the right thing, but we believe the best form of giving, or actually the second best form of giving, is to give anonymously. And we do this because we believe in it, not because we want to get credit for it. So, the idea of getting up here and talking about all the great things that Giant Eagle does is, it makes me very uncomfortable. It's just not who we are. So obviously Steve convinced me because I'm here. And Steve said something really interesting, and it echoes what the Congresswoman said really quite eloquently a couple of minutes ago, which is, Laura, you're missing the point. Which is, this is not a chance to honor Giant Eagle. It's for you to influence others, to care about issues that are important to you. This is an opportunity for you to advocate. And what the Congresswoman was saying before, which I interpreted as your voice matters, is why I decided to come. Because the issue of food insecurity is one that touches all of us in ways that probably are not readily apparent to you. In this room, every single one of you is touched by food insecurity in some way. And it's important to you as a person, it's important to you as someone, a member of your community, and it's important to you from a business perspective. So I wanted to take the opportunity to do 3 things. One is just to tell you a little bit about why we do what we do with food insecurity. Again, not because I want to get credit for it, but because I'm hoping it will inspire you to ask some questions about your business. Second is just to highlight a couple of the programs, some of which I think you may be interested in. And the third is to offer a call to action. So just to expand on a little bit what Steve was saying before, our company was founded by 5 immigrant men 4 generations ago. One of those men was my great-grandfather and my father's grandfather. And by the way, it's sort of evident this is a family affair because I brought my dad, and I'm very happy he's here. But these guys were in some ways a classic American immigrant story. These guys came with nothing, came with absolutely nothing. And they came in search of a better life for themselves and their family. And they got into the grocery business, and we have wonderful pictures. Well, actually, we have wonderful pictures. It's not entirely clear there are stores. They might be stock photography because no one can really identify them, but some pictures that are ostensibly my great-grandfather, standing in front of what you will all think of as the corner store, with signs on it that say can of corn, 16 cents, that kind of stuff. That's the business we came from. And along the way, through hard work and perseverance and a lot of luck, they started to make it. And I don't know for sure whether they went through periods of time where they didn't know where their next meal was coming from, but I would surmise it's highly likely that they did. And at some point along the way, they didn't have to worry about that anymore. And one of their very strong core values is to leave the world a better place than what you found it. And what they instilled in all of us, and really exist, and Steve, you slightly overstated our number of team members. We actually only have 32,000. But what we try to instill is you do the right thing. Two key values. One is you do the right thing, always. And the second is try to leave the world a better place than what you found it. And that led to it led to how we think about our business. In our business, we have 4 key constituencies. And they're ordered in a certain way on purpose. The first one is our own team members. The second one is our customers. The third is our community. And the fourth is our shareholders. And our shareholders are last, specifically because they believe that if you do the right thing for the first 3, good things happen to them. And I have to tell you, I feel very blessed to work for a company that has that kind of belief structure, because we really do get to try to make the world a better place. So how does that translate into food insecurity? Well, what I want to talk about, I've talked a lot about the you do it because it's the right thing to do, but there's also a real business reason to concentrate on food insecurity. And I want to take each one of the constituencies and just talk about why it's the right thing to do and why it might affect your business in ways that you might not think about. So in our own teamers, the facts are that 1 in every 5 families in the United States that has children does not know where their next meal is coming from, or has to ask that question. 1 in 7 people in the United States do not know where their next meal is coming from. And I thought I would just ask all of you, how do you feel when you're hungry? Well, I'll use my own kids as an example. They turn into horrible monsters. And I don't feel so great when I'm hungry either. And imagine that translating to your workplace. So in our business, have all of you guys shopped in a supermarket? Okay, so who's had a not great experience at the checkout? Right, who complains about the cashier? Right, so in our business, listen, I think Amazon is a tremendous company, and I admire the hell out of them. But that said, they're coming right at us. And the fact is, if we have a cashier who is hungry, the chances are they're not going to be at their best. And they're going to make people like you not feel like they're welcome and not want to come back. And at Amazon, you don't have to deal with a grumpy cashier. You just put buy now, or click on one-click ordering. So we have an incredibly pressing business need called, we need 32,000 people to want you to come back to our store. And they can't be hungry, because they're not going to be their best. So that's the business reason from a team member perspective. From a customer perspective, look, obviously, it's not good when people are hungry, but there are real business reasons why it's advantageous for us to think about reducing waste and getting more, we'll call them unsaleable foods, into people's hands. The facts are, in our produce department, and we're, I would say, on average for the grocery industry, in our produce department, we throw out about 6% of everything that we put out. In our meat department, it's about 6% of everything we put out. In our bakery department, it's actually closer to 10% of everything we put out. And grocers do that. That's just been the reality of the world, because we want to have big, beautiful displays and we want to have big variety. And the reality is we can't sell all of that. So we throw it out. And there's a cost to make all that stuff, and then there's a cost when you throw it out. And, you know, in a business that has very low margins like ours, that makes a huge difference. So one of the reasons that we want to take that food, which is good food, and get it to people who are hungry is it reduces our cost. And my bet is that there are costs in your business that you could reduce by reducing waste, which will help people that need it. I don't know that for sure. It's not true in every industry. But my bet is if you really thought about it, it's there. So let's just talk for a moment about community. So in Pittsburgh and Cleveland, where we primarily operate, we don't have the benefit of population growth. Actually, in Pittsburgh, our population is, I think you could call it, stagnant. You know, I have friends in the industry that operate in the Carolinas and Florida and California, and they get an automatic 2 or 3% sales growth just because the population's growing. Well, we have to deal with a -1% just built into what we do. And the reality is there is a direct correlation between food insecurity and the health of the community and economic development. There is a direct correlation. So the reality is, over the long run, our business is only as good as the communities that we operate in. And if it's not a healthy community, we're not going to have it's going to be harder for us to be successful over the long run. The reality is people who aren't hungry are more productive. You know, Amazon, how many people in here are trying to get Amazon to come to their city? Everyone, right? Well, we're trying to. And, you know, one of the things you can't say is, if you want Amazon to come, is 1 out of 5 of our folks are hungry. But who wants to move there? So we have to fix that. So what Giant Eagle does about it, and I'm not going to focus for a long time on this because I want to get to the call to action, is we do a whole bunch of stuff. We support our local food bank. We give directly. We run register campaigns. We give a lot of talent. We have numerous people sitting on the board. This is of the Pittsburgh group, but it also is true in Cleveland and Columbus. We help them with their supply chain. We're sort of like this with them. And they do wonderful things. And because of that, a lot of people are fed. We support an organization, which I'd encourage all of you, if you're in this kind of business, to look into, called Common Threads. It's an organization that's out of Chicago, and what they do is provide health and nutrition curriculum to primarily public schools, where there's a teach the teacher approach. And these get directly to kids and their parents so that they understand it's better to eat an apple as opposed to a bag of Doritos. We are investing in a very interesting and innovative program called 412 Food Rescue. So in the numbers I gave you before about how much we throw out, everything we can send to the food bank, we send to the food bank. But the reality is, you know, when you're trimming lettuce, as an example, you know, 1 out of every 10 heads of lettuce you might look at and say, it's not pretty enough to put it on display. And the food bank's not coming to get that. So it usually gets thrown out. And what 412 Food Rescue does is use a crowdsourcing model to match volunteer drivers with the food that's available and the people that need it, which is a unique niche that is actually looking like it has some significant legs, and we're actually quite excited about that. And we do all sorts of stuff with food sustainability where, for example, leftover cooking oil gets translated into cattle feed and those types of things. So there's lots of ways that we do this. One of the other maybe not so obvious things as it relates to food insecurity is we have a real effort in employing people with disabilities. And it's true, it is absolutely true that the numbers I gave you before go up substantially if there's a member of the family that has a person with a disability in it. So why do we employ people with disabilities? We employ them because it's a wonderful thing to do, but more importantly, they're great team members. They show up. They listen, not everyone shows up, but they do, because their parents make sure that they do, and they care a lot about their jobs, and they care a lot about customer service. And not only are we doing a service for them, but our customers love it, and our team members love it. So that's another thing we do. So why I'm here today is not because, I mean, the award is lovely, and I really, truly appreciate it. But what's important for me is that, is the call to action. And the call to action for me is, I'd ask each one of you, first of all, to do the research in your own organizations to say, how would food insecurity affect me? Because it does. The second thing is get involved. I mean, there's lots of things you can do, and one of the things, I'll tell you a funny story about my kids. I was at breakfast this morning talking about this, and my 11-year-old daughter, I said, I'm going to accept an award. It's going to be a lot of people talking about food insecurity. And she goes, Mom, what good is what good is talking about it going to do? I actually didn't have a great answer for that. But there is a good answer for that, which is your voice matters. Your voice matters, and there are a number of really important policy issues that are on the table today, which may not be on your radar screen, but need to be. What I've been talking about is directly related to the work that CED is doing on education. You know, when the Congresswoman was talking about kids and coming to school and they need the right foundation, I want to just tell you another little story, which is I was with some educators about a week ago, and one of the teachers said, you know, I have the most remarkable transformation in behavior of my kids. This happened to be preschoolers. How they act on Monday morning versus how they act on Friday afternoon. And on Monday morning, they come in and they're aggressive or withdrawn or mean, or there's all sorts of depressed. I mean, you can use all sorts of things. And what happens is they go and they get their free breakfast, and then they change. And the reality is they haven't eaten for days. And on Friday, they don't want to leave because they don't know if they're going to get a meal over the weekend. So when we talk about education, to me, and all of the things the Congresswoman said make enormous sense. I wholeheartedly support what she was saying. I thought she was fabulous. But it's not going to do any good if those kids show up and they're hungry. So the issues that are on the table today that need to be thought about and advocated for are SNAP, and all of the education policy the Congresswoman was talking about. SNAP is not a perfect program, there's no question about it, but it is critically important. It feeds 47 million people a year. And it is those kids that don't want to go home because they're not sure they're going to get a meal. So if block grants come, which look like they might, we need to make sure they're used properly. And that's something we can influence. We can influence it. So, long-winded way of accepting an award, which I didn't want to accept in the first place. But listen, this stuff is really important. It's important to all of us. And I hope I've been able to, by getting over my shyness and accepting awards, inspire you to ask questions about what you do. Because there are real issues that need really addressed right now. And if there was ever a group of folks that could make a difference, they're sitting in this room. So with that, Steve and the entire CED organization, I am unbelievably honored to accept this on behalf of 32,000 people. And thank you very much.